Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Friday, December 30th, 2022. The House Ways and Means Committee releases 6 years of former President Donald Trump's tax returns obtained just recently after a years-long legal battle. And the returns confirm earlier reports that in some years he paid little or no income tax, primarily due to large business losses that offset his income. The CEO of Southwest Airlines promising to fully reimburse those affected by the company's thousands of flight cancellations over the past week, saying the desire is to go above and beyond and pay reasonable requests for things like meals, hotel stays, or other ways people travel to their destinations. Ahead of New Year's Eve, preparations underway for the thousands upon thousands of people who will pack Times Square in New York City for the historic ball drop in the celebration without COVID-19 restrictions, first time in several years. We'll hear from New York City's mayor and police commissioner. Plus, the war in Ukraine nearly a year old, an end-of-the-year message of peace from the United Nations Secretary General. And in just a couple of days, a new Congress will be sworn in. We'll hear the farewell speeches of a Republican and Democrat who will not be returning because they gave up their seats trying to run for other offices, and both lost in primaries. From the Associated Press, Democrats in Congress released 6 years of former President Donald Trump's tax returns on Friday, the culmination of a years-long effort to learn more about the finances of a one-time business mogul who broke decades of political precedent when he refused to voluntarily release the information as he sought the White House. The returns, which include redactions of some personal sensitive information, such as Social Security and bank account numbers, are from 2015 to 2020. They span nearly 6,000 pages, including more than 2,700 pages of individual returns from Donald Trump and his wife, Melania, and more than 3,000 pages in returns for Donald Trump's business entities. Their release follows a party-line vote in the House Ways and Means Committee last week to make the returns public. Committee Democrats argued that transparency and the rule of law were at stake, while Republicans countered that the release would set a dangerous precedent undermining privacy protections. The reporting from the Associated Press. Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett, a senior member of the Ways and Means Committee, was on MSNBC today talking about what the tax returns show.
I think it's really outrageous. It's outrageous both with regard to Trump personally and with regard to Trump's Internal Revenue Service administration. Here is the most powerful man in the world, the self-described clever genius who brags of his wealth almost daily, and he did not pay the taxes that the most modest wage earner in this country would pay. Nothing in 1 year, $750 a year in others. All of this related to the claims for big losses, big deductions, big credits, taking advantage of every loophole. And because of the sorry job that Trump's Internal Revenue Service did, we don't know how many of these were legal loopholes for the rich and how many of them were unjust and illegal because the IRS didn't do the job of auditing. The largest of his losses is $105 million. And we did not see any investigation of that, nor did the Ways and Means Committee get those records. The excellent work that the New York Times did back in 2020 leads us to believe that that's probably related to the failure of his Atlantic casinos. But he, year after year, is relying on losses to not pay much of anything. And I think Americans should be greatly outraged by that and by the failure of the IRS under Trump to do its job to audit him the way they have audited other presidents.
Congressman Lloyd Doggett, Democrat from Texas, member of the Ways and Means Committee on MSNBC. An article in USA Today on the release of the 6 years of Donald Trump's tax returns includes this. Many businesses for which Donald Trump and his wife filed taxes from 2015 through 2020 made no money. Often they reported only expenses, or they reported income that was almost entirely offset by the reported expenses, effectively zeroing out any taxes owed. The filings raised questions about whether these were valid trade or business activities or costs derived from personal activities or hobbies, the committee experts wrote. Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal, Democrat from Massachusetts, has said the justification for obtaining these tax records were to do legislative oversight of an IRS program that requires tax audits of presidents, and that the committee found those audits were not being conducted during President Trump's first 2 years in office. Congressman Neal writing today about the documents release, a president is no ordinary taxpayer. They hold power and influence unlike any other American, and with great power comes even greater responsibility. Committee ranking Republican Kevin Brady of Texas putting out a statement. With the publicly released transcript of the Democrats' secret executive session, Americans now have the confirmation that there was never a legislative purpose behind the public release of these confidential records, and that the IRS was conducting audits prior to Democrats' request. He writes, going forward, all future chairs of both the House Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee will have nearly unlimited power to target and make public the tax returns of private citizens, political enemies, business and labor leaders, or even the Supreme Court justices themselves. Former President Trump, with his own statement today, the Democrats should never have done it. The Supreme Court should never have approved it, and it's going to lead to horrible things for so many people. The great USA divide will now grow far worse. The radical left Democrats have weaponized everything, but remember, that is a dangerous two-way street. That statement from former President Trump. 1 week ago, right after the committee's vote to release the documents, former President Trump posting a video.
While others use public office to enrich themselves, I left an amazing life behind to go and fight for the American people, and I'm glad I did it. It hasn't been easy, but I'm glad I did it. Sadly and pathetically, for the past 6 years, the radical Democrats and the fake news media have been trying to deceive the public about these simple facts. Now, in an outrageous abuse of power, the radical Democrat Congress illegally obtained and leaked my personal tax returns, which show only that I've had tremendous success. It's been an amazing period of time. The seizure of these confidential records was completely unconstitutional. There is no legitimate legislative purpose for their action. And if you look at what they've done, it's so sad for our country. It's nothing but another deranged political witch hunt, which has been going on from the day I came down the escalator in Trump Tower. Although these tax returns contain relatively little information and not information that almost anybody would understand, they're extremely complex. The radical Democrats' behavior is a shame upon the U.S. Congress. This precedent must now be applied to the corrupt Democrats themselves. The new Republican House should immediately obtain the financial records of Joe Biden and his entire criminal enterprise.
Former President Donald Trump, in a video posted online after the House Ways and Means Committee voted to release 6 years of his tax returns. The documents made public today, just a few days before control of the U.S. House switches from Democrat to Republican. You can read the tax returns by going to cspan.org. We have a link at the top of our homepage. Southwest Airlines resuming close to normal operations today, with just a few dozen flights canceled. That's compared to the over 2,000 per day canceled for most of this week, stranding hundreds of thousands of customers. CNBC reports Southwest's operation unraveled over the holiday week after brutal winter weather swept across the U.S. When most airlines had recovered at the end of last week, Southwest's problems worsened. Executives cited challenges, including overloaded internal scheduling platforms crucial to getting crews matched with flights. Southwest Airlines CEO Bob Jordan telling ABC's Good Morning America that the company is committed to full reimbursement.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said that your airline could be fined thousands of dollars per violation if you don't deliver refunds to passengers whose flights were canceled. Can you guarantee those passengers will get refunds in a timely manner?
I've had a great conversation with the Secretary. We're aligned. There's no greater focus beyond safety than taking care of our customers. We're offering refunds, covering expenses. We'll be going back out with even more after that. That's the goal of the Secretary, obviously, is to cover our customers and take care of them. So we're aligned there. And beyond safety, there is no greater focus at this point than taking care of our customers, reuniting them with their bags, getting refunds processed. In fact, we've got a special website that's put up just to take refund information, baggage information, expenses, to process that even faster.
And what about some of the expenses beyond the ticket refunds? Extended hotel stays, some people had to rent cars. Many passengers whose flights were canceled had to rebook more expensive tickets to get home, even on Southwest. What's your obligation to them?
Well, our desire is to go above and beyond. We always take care of our customers. That's our 51-year history here at Southwest Airlines. We'll be looking at and taking care of things like rental cars, hotel rooms, meals, booking customers on other airlines. So that will all be part of what we're covering here as we reimburse our customers and make good on this issue. I want to be really frank. I mean, this has impacted so many people, so many customers over the holidays. It's impacted our employees, and I'm extremely sorry for that. There's just no way almost to apologize enough, because we love our customers, we love our people, and we really impacted their plans.
Southwest Airlines CEO Bob Jordan on ABC's Good Morning America program. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg made the warning that was referenced in the question to Bob Jordan in a letter to the airline. He followed up with a video post Thursday night.
Hey, it's Pete. I'm here at the office where we have been getting thousands of complaints from passengers who have been stranded or had their plans disrupted because of the operational meltdown at Southwest Airlines. If you're one of those passengers, there's something I want you to know, which is that the U.S. Department of Transportation has your back. I'm disappointed that Southwest has not done more to proactively communicate with passengers the ways that they're going to take care of you. So I want to make sure you know some of the ways that you are owed compensation if you have been in this situation since Christmas Eve. That includes not only getting a refund if you choose not to travel and your flight was canceled, but also getting compensated if you had to book on another airline, getting compensated for hotel expenses, ground transportation, meals while you have been stuck as a result of a situation that was under Southwest Airlines' control. If you haven't already, please familiarize yourself with our website, including our consumer protection page, where you can file a complaint if the airline is failing to provide the compensation that you were owed. I'm assigning US DOT resources to follow through on every complaint that comes in to make sure that you get compensated, and we will penalize Southwest as we would any airline to the tune potentially of tens of thousands of dollars per violation if they fail to meet what is required of them to take care of passengers. I know that there's nothing that can fully make up for missing a Christmas holiday, a birthday, a wedding, so many of the things that passengers have been counting on and looking forward to doing in these recent days. But when there is financial compensation that we can require from the airline to at least make you whole on the things that can be counted in dollars and cents, we're going to do exactly that. And we're not going to rest until every one of these complaints is addressed. Again, check out our website for more information. Our department is here for you in this situation and every day.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a video posted Thursday night. This from Market Watch. On Friday, Southwest's travel disruption website continued to collect information for passengers looking to obtain refunds. The airline said all customers traveling through January 2nd will be able to rebook flights in the original class of service or travel standby within 30 days of their original date of travel without paying additional charges. Rebookings must be between the original cities of departure and arrival and be in accordance with Southwest's accommodation procedures. Members of Congress also promising to look into what happened. Nancy Mace is a Republican from South Carolina, member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. She was on Fox News this morning. She says Transportation Secretary Buttigieg's letter to Southwest Airlines promising hefty fines if the full reimbursement to affected travelers is not made is not enough.
And I'm sure a letter really scared the CEO of Southwest Airlines. I mean, that really is it's nothing. It's just paper at this point. And Southwest Airlines was given a $7 billion bailout by the American taxpayers during COVID. I'd like a full accounting of that, because if you can't keep track of luggage and you're an airline, how do you think the American people could trust for you to keep track of the $7 billion that we gave you? It's ridiculous. We got to get to the bottom of it. What I want to hear Pete Buttigieg say sooner rather than later is that he's going to audit that $7 billion and get a full accounting for the American people on where that money went. As you rightly pointed out, Todd, it's 2022. How can you not know where your crews are, where luggage is, where technology exists today? This isn't rocket science. I was a database programmer way back in the day in my 20s. This isn't as difficult as it would seem, especially this day and age when the technology is there. Why aren't they using it? Why haven't they upgraded their systems? And why are they treated consumers this way?
Well, you're on the Transportation Committee, so Congresswoman, will your committee be doing anything as it relates to this meltdown, as they're calling it, in 2023?
I sure hope we will. I mean, there's a balance between the free market, right? You don't want too much government intervention and overregulation because that will only drive up consumer prices. And you're seeing Southwest stock start to go down this week. You're seeing them change their consumer policies. Originally, it was they were only going to refund your ticket for weather-related cancellations, and they've changed that this week, thankfully, that they'll refund all tickets between now and the end of the year, which they should do.
Yeah.
And so they're also allowing customers to put their claims in for their luggage, although I'm praying that we get it back, that we don't have to do the claim, that we'll get it at some point in the next couple of days. But they are making adjustments to their contracts with consumers and their consumer policies to have a better outcome, as they should. The market's going to force them to change. But since they were bailed out by $7 billion, there is a responsibility by Pete Buttigieg, by the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in Congress, to find out where the money went and how was it spent and invested, and why didn't they update their systems and organize for this kind of disaster.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, Republican from South Carolina, on Fox News this morning. Congressman Rick Larsen, Democrat from Washington State, chair of the House Aviation Subcommittee and the incoming ranking member of the full Transportation and Infrastructure Committee when the new Congress convenes next week and Republicans are in the majority, saying on CNN Thursday night that he too wants Congress to investigate how Southwest Airlines operations almost ground to a halt.
I think the House of Representatives should hold hearings on this debacle that's taken place over the last couple of days. And we have the opportunity as well to set up for the reauthorization of a federal bill that will look at what we can do to better ensure the traveling public gets the support they need when things like this happen. So I do want to see us have a hearing, and we have the opportunity to change the law as part of looking at the laws around aviation in 2023.
I want to ask you about this. Southwest has said it will be up and running with minimal disruptions tomorrow. But the Pilots Association, that I've spoken to quite a bit, has been very clear that it had warned the airline years ago to upgrade its IT systems, which Southwest has said is to blame for stranding thousands of people at airports during this peak holiday season. How can Southwest be held accountable?
Yeah, it sounds like weather was only a trigger to the underlying problem at Southwest Airlines, and that was this scheduling system, this technology that, 20 years ago, basic investments and upgrades would have been a good thing to do, but they didn't do. And now, 20 years on, we have a disaster on our hands. And so I think we're going to certainly push Southwest to do that. But I think first and foremost, thinking about the customers, rebooking customers that they can rebook, refunding customers for their fares and the fees that they paid, reimbursing customers as well for costs that the customers bore while being stranded at airports. And there's one more R I think is important, is remorse. Southwest Airlines should show a little bit more remorse about how they've treated their customers and the traveling public.
Congressman Rick Larsen, Democrat from Washington State. He'll be Transportation and Infrastructure Committee ranking Democrat in the next Congress. He was on CNN Thursday night. On Wall Street today, the Dow down 73, S&P down 9, NASDAQ down 11. The headline at CNBC, stocks fall to end Wall Street's worst year since 2008. S&P 500 finishes 2022 down nearly 20%. Washington Today continues in a moment.
The new 118th Congress convenes on Tuesday, January 3rd at noon Eastern. For the first time in 2 years, they'll return to Washington as a divided government. Republicans will control the House of Representatives, while Democrats retain control of the Senate by a slim majority. The new incoming members are younger, with an average age of 47, compared to the average age of 58 in the previous session. The new Congress will also be more diverse, with a record number of women serving, including more women of color. Follow the process as the 118th Congress gavels into session, holds the election for new Speaker of the House, and new members take the oath of office. New Congress, new leaders. Watch the opening day of the 118th Congress, Tuesday, January 3rd at noon Eastern, live on C-SPAN and C-SPAN 2. Also on C-SPAN Now, our free mobile video app, or online at cspan.org.
Welcome back to Washington Today, available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app. A few more headlines. The House Select Committee to investigate the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol releasing more interview transcripts today, including with Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She told the committee it's an ironclad rule in our House not to talk about pending cases, and that Justice Thomas was completely unaware of her text messages to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. She said, "Let me also add, it is laughable for anyone who knows my husband to think I could influence his jurisprudence. The man is independent and stubborn, with strong character traits of independence and integrity. Regarding the 2020 election, I did not speak to him at all about the details of my volunteer campaign activities, and I did not speak to him at all about the details of my post-election activities, which were minimal in any event." And President Joe Biden pardoning 6 people who have served sentences for drug or alcohol-related crimes, and also a woman who was convicted of second-degree murder while she was in an abusive relationship decades ago. The White House noting that the court in that case did not allow an expert to testify about the effects of domestic violence. This is the 3rd time this year President Biden has used his constitutional power of clemency. From the New York Times, crowds will once again gather in Times Square on New Year's Eve to bring in 2023, peering through more than 1 ton of confetti to catch a glimpse of the 11,875-pound ball made of Waterford crystal as it descends, an annual tradition that dates back to 1907. This year's celebration will be a full return to all the usual revelries after 2 years of scaled-back events because of the coronavirus pandemic. New York City Mayor Eric Adams speaking about this at a news conference today.
We want you to be safe this time of the year during the celebration, bringing in 2023. Want you to enjoy yourselves. And then go on our website, get the items that will slow up your screening into the safety area. There's certain items you cannot bring into the safety zone, the safety area that we have. So become knowledgeable of it beforehand so you can come in without a problem. The lucky ones that are going to be up front and able to see the ball drop, dress warmly, is going to be a nice day. We're expecting some rain, but as I recall years to come, rain or sunshine, it doesn't stop those who come in to bring in the New Year's here in the greatest city, we would like to believe, on the globe. And so I want to turn it over to our amazing police commissioner who has really brought about the whole theme of public safety in our city. And I just wanted to thank her and the entire team that we have here on how we're going to protect those who come here to bring in the New Year's. So happy New Year's, everyone. We're looking forward. Hip hop is 50 this year, so we're going to have a real celebration around hip hop is 50. That's part of the celebration as we come in and bring in a new year this year. And I wish everyone a very safe and prosperous new year as we move into 2023. New
York City Mayor Eric Adams at a pre-New Year's Eve news conference. He was joined by the city's police commissioner, Keechant Sewell.
At this time, there are no specific credible threats to New York City or any of our events surrounding New Year's Eve. That said, I ask the members of the public to always remain vigilant. Every night and day in New York City, there are millions of eyes and ears out there, and tomorrow night, there'll be millions more. If anyone sees something that does not look right or makes you feel uncomfortable, tell a police officer, call 911, or contact our counterterrorism hotline at 1-888-NYC-SAFE, and we will investigate. That is what the women and men of the NYPD do every single day throughout the year, and they do it better than anyone. Remember, public safety takes everyone doing their part, and New Yorkers have proven time and again that they are up to the task. The bottom line is, New York City is excited and looking forward to ringing in 2023 with another enjoyable New Year's Eve, all under the umbrella of the most well-policed, best protected event in the entire world.
New York City Police Commissioner Kichent Sewell. Although this year's New Year's Eve get-togethers are mostly free of any COVID-19 restrictions, there has been an uptick of cases lately. CBS News reports the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention saying Friday it is tracking a new variant of concern dubbed XBB.1.5. According to new figures published Friday, it estimates this new variant makes up 40.5% of new infections across the country. As the year comes to an end, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres with this video message, hoping for peace in the new year.
Every new year is a moment of rebirth. We sweep out the ashes of the old year and prepare for a brighter day. In 2022, millions of people around the world literally swept out ashes. From Ukraine to Afghanistan, to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and beyond, people left the ruins of their homes and lives in search of something better. Around the world, 100 million people were on the move, fleeing wars, wildfires, droughts, poverty, and hunger. In 2023, we need peace now more than ever. Peace with one another through dialogue to end conflict. Peace with nature and our climate to build a more sustainable world. Peace in the home so women and girls can live in dignity and safety. Peace on the streets and in our communities with the full protection of all human rights. Peace in our places of worship with respect for each other's beliefs. And peace online, free from hate speech and abuse. In 2023, let's put peace at the heart of our words and actions. Together, let's make 2023 a year when peace is restored to our lives, our homes, and our world.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, a video message. A couple of headlines about the war in Ukraine. The United States is considering sending Bradley fighting vehicles to Ukraine as part of another military aid package, though a final decision has not been made, a person familiar with the matter telling Bloomberg. Russian government spokesman expressing extreme concern after Belarus said the wreckage of a Ukrainian missile had landed on its soil. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense said it is aware of the Kremlin's desperate and persistent efforts to drag Belarus into its aggressive war against Ukraine, and it does not rule out a deliberate provocation from Russia. And Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping meeting by video conference today. The opening remarks were broadcast publicly. They did not mention Ukraine specifically, but President Putin, according to the Associated Press, said, in the face of increasing geopolitical tensions, the significance of the Russian-Chinese strategic partnership is growing as a stabilizing factor. This is Washington Today. All this week on this program, we've been airing farewell speeches from some members of Congress who will not be returning to the House next week when the new Congress meets. Today, two of them, one Democratic, one Republican, who decided not to run for re-election to their seats, but instead run for other offices, and they both lost in primaries. We start with Republican Jody Hice of Georgia, first elected to the House in 2014, and he ran this year, unsuccessfully, for Georgia Secretary of State, challenging incumbent Republican Brad Raffensperger. You might remember Brad Raffensperger had refused to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia after former President Donald Trump and his Republican allies, including Jody Hice, had made unproven claims of fraud. Congressman Hice gave his farewell speech on the House floor December 14th.
It's been an incredible honor to serve the people of the great state of Georgia in the 10th District for the last 4 terms, and this is my last time addressing you as fellow colleagues here from the House floor within these hallowed halls of Congress. No question, the history and the marvel of this place, our nation's capital, is something that never ceases to amaze me. I cannot express how deeply grateful I am to have had the tremendous privilege to represent the 10th District of Georgia among the ranks of so many incredible men and women before me, and to play a small role in shaping our nation's history. And with God as my guide, I've set out in the last 8 years to not only represent him well, but to represent Georgia's 10th District and our country well. I would be quite remiss if I didn't take a moment to extend a heartfelt gratitude to many in my life who are so important and who have made these last 8 years so meaningful. Certainly my wife, Dee Dee. We all know this is not an easy place for family, and I cannot express to her the deep love and appreciation I have for the incredible support that she has given our 2 daughters, Anna and Sarah, their husbands, our 4 grandchildren as well, have stood by me and us through all of this so much, and I love and appreciate them more than words can say. Our staff, both here in D.C. and in Georgia, have been among the best here in Congress, and I want to say a heartfelt thank you for serving our constituents and for fighting the battles here in Washington with such integrity and honor. And what a team you have been. You certainly have made me look a lot better than I am, and I'm deeply appreciative of that. My colleagues here on both sides of the aisle, it's been an honor to serve, and I particularly express my gratitude and love for those fellow men and women within the Freedom Caucus whom I've come to love tremendously, and it's been such an honor to serve with each of them as well. Obviously without the guidance of God and my faith and those around me, we certainly would not have been able to accomplish many of the things we've been able to do here. But as a pastor, prior to coming to Congress, my focus here so much has been on moral matters, things like life, faith, and family, protecting the rights of Americans, specifically the right to freely worship without fear of intimidation or harassment, has constantly been on the forefront of my life and continues to be. And although I'm departing from this current post, I cannot stress enough the importance of those who will be here for the 118th Congress to continue fighting for the repeal of the Johnson Amendment. We all know that the First Amendment is for every American citizen, the right to speak, to uphold those beliefs in the public square. And certainly those beliefs, the epicenter of it, if you will, is certainly in churches, and the centerpiece of that is in the pulpits. And our government has no right entering the pulpits of America determining what can and cannot be said. And so I urge my colleagues to continue fighting that good battle. Another piece of legislation that I introduced my very first year here was the Sanctity of Human Life, which sought to declare that the most fundamental right that we have is the right to life. And I've introduced this bill, in fact, every Congress, every session since we've been here, and I look forward to being able to pass that on to those who continue the fight. And while it's been of utmost importance to focus on ending abortion, I've also felt it's important to memorialize the 63 million lives that have been lost. That's why I introduced a bill to instruct that the United States flag be flown at half-staff on January 22nd of each year in honor of the unborn who have lost their lives. If we ever forget history, it's bound to be repeated itself. And if we, God willing, see the end of abortion, we need to likewise remember those who have given their lives, the innocent, in this struggle, in this battle. You know, at the heart of it all, it's my prayer that our country would see a spiritual awakening. I'm convinced that we can't resolve all the problems in this country by passing another piece of legislation or throwing another $1 trillion at a problem. We need the good hand of Almighty God to guide us through these days, and we need a spiritual awakening, and that certainly is my utmost prayer.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I thank the chair, again, my colleagues, and wish each of my colleagues a continued success here in Congress, and a Merry Christmas to each one. Thank you so much. I yield.
Congressman Jody Hice, Republican from Georgia, on the House floor December 14th. He's leaving Congress after 4 terms. Congressman Connor Lamb is a Democrat from Pennsylvania, finishing up his 2nd term. He's also leaving the House. He ran this year for U.S. Senator and lost the primary to Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. Connor Lamb giving his farewell speech as well on the House floor December 14th.
Mr. Speaker, this is my last speech, and the first time that I walked in here, I looked all around the chamber the way that new members do, and it really struck me that there are only 2 paintings in here. They're right behind me now, and one is of George Washington and one is of General Lafayette. And I think what struck me is that neither man ever served in this House. But on that first day, I felt like they were looking right at me and saying, "We have a message for you. Don't take this place for granted." Other people had to fight for us to be able to do what we do in here. And on that first day, I had no idea that within less than 3 years, the D.C. police and the Capitol Police would have to fight for us again right here, that hundreds of them would be injured, that some would even give their lives, just so that we could walk back in that night and do our job. I saw a recent poll that showed that just 21% of Americans approve of the job that we do in here. 75% of Americans disapprove. And most of us know why that is. We've been in our congressional districts during a government shutdown or after we fail to pass yet another bill that most Americans support, and also because the bad news about this place travels much further and much faster than the good news ever does. But I just keep thinking about how those officers fought for this place. They fought for us, and I think they would do it all over again if you asked them to. We can take confidence in that fact. We can take confidence in the fact that this institution did its job on January 7th, hours after being attacked on January 6th, and we can take confidence in the fact that since then our fellow Americans have continued to reject so many candidates around the country who are not committed to this democracy. If I could only make one observation on my way out the door here, it's that I think we all have a lot to be confident about in this institution, and we should be more confident in ourselves. Our failures are noticed more, we all know that, but our successes are real. And we have to value those successes because they are a credit to people like Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, or to Representative John Lewis, or to a young Air Force Staff Sergeant from my district named Dylan Elchin, people who sacrificed and shed blood for this democracy and for what it means. The things that we have done in here and that you will continue to do next term reflect the greatness of these people. I keep thinking about these brown cardboard boxes of food that the Department of Agriculture put together during the pandemic, and they rushed them to food banks. And I loaded a lot of these boxes into people's cars when I was back in my district. These were honest and good people. In their trunks, these were people that had work boots and tools. They never thought they were going to need something from a food bank. But it was our votes that fed those people and gave them help in their hour of need. I could go on and on about the things that we've done in this room that are so special. My staff knows I talk endlessly about the fact that our district was home to the first ever civilian nuclear power plant, and its successor power plant was at risk when we came into office. It is now secure because of the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the Inflation Control Act. Thousands and thousands of jobs, clean power that our region needs, and investment in science. I would talk about the Teamsters and the miners and how we saved their pension if I had time, how we rebuilt a bridge in Pittsburgh in less than 1 year because of federal funds, how the microchips and hydrogen that we have set aside money for are themselves an expression of so much confidence in our future in this country. But my time is up. So I'll just say that I don't want to deny that we have our problems in this country. We definitely do. But I've only been here for 4 years, and it is obvious to me that we have everything we need to be successful. For an Irish guy, that's a very emotional thought. But I've seen it. When I was a kid, I had this plaque that my grandmother gave me that said the words of St. Paul, which were that we have a responsibility to stir into flame all of the gifts that God has given us. And God has given this country so many incredible gifts. I just think we have to be worthy of that. We have to honor our inheritance. And on our best days here for the last 4.5 years, we have done that. It has been the honor of my life to do that. So to all my colleagues, I just want to say I'm confident in you. I know what you all are capable of and what this institution is capable of. To my constituents, I just want to say thank you. It has been a tremendous privilege to be here in your name. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Congressman Connor Lamb, Democrat from Pennsylvania, farewell speech on the House floor December 14th. He'll not be returning for the new Congress. He decided not to run for re-election for House and instead for U.S. Senator and lost in the Democratic primary. Well, his term will end with his replacement being sworn in next week, January 3rd. Another member has left early. G.K. Butterfield resigning from Congress today. So he says he can start his new job at a Washington, D.C. law firm on Saturday. He plans to do lobbying and policy work. He can lobby the executive branch immediately, but he's prohibited from lobbying Congress for 1 year. Thanks for listening to Washington Today. Subscribe to C-SPAN's evening newsletter word for word to get the stories Washington is talking about sent to your inbox every day. Sign up at c-span.org/connect. Have a good night, a good weekend, and Happy New Year.